Shapiro. I am a police officer with the Toronto Police Service, and we are coming to you live from Toronto Police Traffic Services. I was going to come up with some kind of weird late show, talk show host intro. It's not going to happen. Today is the 22nd of March. We're talking about a whole bunch of things today. First off, I want you to know that we are broadcasting all over the place. We are currently on TikTok. Our largest audience is there. We are on Instagram Live, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I say and Twitter. I'm leaving Twitter to the end because they're not able to get us questions. And the reason that's important is anyone watching, except for those of you on Twitter, can currently interact. You can ask questions. We can give you answers. We're talking. It's a conversation. And if you've got questions, please use the Q&A function on Instagram or on TikTok. That will make sure that I see it. If you're just chatting in the comments, I won't see it. In the chat, though, we do have magical moderators. They are there trying to keep it classy, make sure that your questions get answered. That's what they're doing. They're volunteers, not paid members, so please be kind. If you're going to be spamming or being rude, you're going to be asked to take a walk. A couple of things to talk about. Oh, and before I do that, we want to talk about Vision Zero Enforcement Team. But before we do that, if you're watching on any of the other platforms except for Twitter, you can just make a comment and we will see it. Like Big Jeff Fresh did, who's watching on YouTube and says, hello again. Big Jeff Fresh jumped into a live session on the VoiceOver Cop channel. I was just testing out a Bluetooth connection. We've been having some odd audio things that haunt us, and they're gone now. And now that I've said it, it'll probably come back. Anyway, Vision Zero Enforcement Team, they are the dedicated group of officers who go out and try and change driver behavior one ticket at a time. They do that in the city of Toronto based on the information that the big brain people, analysts, give them. They tell them what divisions and what communities and corridors are the ones that need attention. And they go to different areas every day. Today they are in... where are they today? 31 Division and 42 Division, but that might not mean anything to you. So what does it mean? Well, if you are more familiar with your neighborhoods, because that means something to people, Black Creek, Jane Heights, Downsview, Malvern, Agincourt, Rouge, Scarborough, it's Scarborough. You know, if you live there, we're there to help you today. Now, that doesn't mean we're not there to help you any other day. It just means that we're augmenting the already good work done by officers in those divisions to try and make those roads safer. What are they looking for? They're looking for the big four. That's the driver behavior that most often leads to serious injury and death on our roads. That is speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, impaired driving. Those are the things that are hurting people. Those are the things that we're trying to change. Listen, we don't want anyone to do anything that's illegal because that's illegal. But if we accept that certain things are going to happen, our focus, or at least that team's focus, is the stuff that's going to hurt people. Okay. Ryan Pinn, g'day, sir. He says, hello there. He's also coming in from YouTube. YouTube's a popular place, and it's good for us. We're almost at 1,000. If you don't already follow us, and if you're watching on Twitter, what a great opportunity. You can follow us on Traffic Services Toronto Police. That is the channel name. That is where you go to be able to interact with us for this next hour. We're going to try and get as many questions answered as possible. Forgive me if you ask a question that's already been spoken about. I might refer to, or suggest you come back and watch the rerun when it's done. We're going to try and get through as many new and unique questions as opposed to answering the same thing 5 times. But we appreciate that it's like 680 News. People jump in, jump out, jump in. So you may be coming in and the question that you want to know the answer to is already being asked. Very often, if you ask, I shouldn't say very often, if you ask a chat question or a question in the chat, moderators, unpaid, not police officers, will be answering your question. If you ask it in the Q&A function, that's where I'm going to see it. I think we've covered all this. Now, something else to talk about. It is, what is it? It's National, what is this? It's National Impaired Driving Prevention Week. We talk about this every year. Impaired operation, it's a problem. Now, Public Safety Canada talks about a whole bunch of different things. They talk about, impaired by drug, impaired by alcohol, impaired by fatigue, distracted driving. All of these things are important. All of these things are dangerous. We put up a post this morning talking about cell phone use in particular, being distracted. Is it a form of impairment? Well, it's not impaired by drug or alcohol, but you're not driving. You're not paying attention. Does it lead to collisions? Absolutely. Now, the National Impaired Driving Prevention Week runs from March 20th to the 26th. So we'll be talking more about that as we go. I wanted to also talk about last weekend. So we had St. Patrick's Day last week. It was Thursday. We had the parade on Sunday. And, going back and looking at statistics, how many people we arrest for impaired operation, I don't think we did that badly. And I mean that by no one should drive impaired. but I was expecting whopper numbers, and they weren't as high as I thought they'd be. Specifically, last weekend, that's from Friday at 6 p.m. till Monday at 6 a.m., the Toronto police arrested 20 people for impaired operation offenses. Now, here's where I love, and I shouldn't find these so interesting, but I do. 2 drivers that were at least 3 times the legal limit. 3 times. That takes work. That's not just having an extra drink, and you shouldn't have any, but that takes work. One driver was going the wrong way down a one-way street. Yeah, impairment not so good for decision making and observations. Those skills go out the window. And one vehicle or driver flipped their car while trying to pass a bus. Genius maneuver. Those people were all, of course, arrested and charged criminally for impaired operation offenses. What happens next? Well, now court and a lot of money, because the average defense, people trying to get away or get out of something or dealing with the courts, $15,000 to $30,000. That's not including the fact that you're not driving for a minimum of a year. 2 years if you're not set up for the interlock, device opportunity, which is incredibly expensive as well. At the end of the day, drugs and alcohol don't mix with motor vehicles or conveyances. Simple as that. Elantra Girl says, what happens if you get a speeding ticket? If you get a speed ticket in November, as of today has never shown up in a Toronto court website. So you got charged, nothing's shown up in the courts, and you've never been mailed anything. I would follow up with the courts and find out what the story is. Hopefully you still have your ticket number, and they can figure that out. Obviously, there were major delays as a result of COVID. I'm sure they're still dealing with some delays. November is not that long ago. If it was last November, I'd be more concerned. But check with the courts, and then you can make your decision. Now, you can also look at, and I like to send everyone to the same document. There is a guide to POA, Provincial Offences Act defendants. This is basically explains the court system, what you can expect. Great resource if you've been charged with an offense. I suggest it to everybody. Let's see here. I'm allowed to add. What is this? Am I allowed to add a big wing to my car? Big wings, whale tails, things that the 80s should have kept. Listen, you can put certain things on your vehicle. If you're going to add a big wing, make sure that's affixed properly. I see a lot of trunks that are destroyed because they've put on this giant wing and it doesn't have appropriate support. If that giant wing becomes dislodged, you're responsible for it. So, and I mean dislodged, I mean you lose it. It falls off your vehicle. So two-sided tape, not efficient. Make sure that if you're mounting it, you have appropriate mounts and it's done professionally. But big wings are supposed to do things. They're supposed to push down on your vehicle and keep it stuck to that road. Well, if it's not adjusted properly, or if it messes with the dynamics of your vehicle so much so that your vehicle becomes less safe, you may be in a very in a bad spot when you get into a collision, and then the sciencey people and the investigators look at it and say that you were responsible, you lost control because you put a big wing. So be careful. Make sure that if you're making changes and they're for aesthetic purposes to make it look cool, make sure that it's also doing the right thing in terms of design. But yeah, you can put a wing on it. Just it may not be a good idea. Ticket for driving in someone's blind spot. Well, are you actively working to hide in people's blind spots? How exactly? Just being in blind spot, the person making the lane change or a maneuver is responsible to make sure it can be done safely. They need to check their blind spot, so you don't get a ticket for being in their blind spot. At least, not that I can't think of any charge that would apply to someone just being in a blind spot. Again, the person making the movement is responsible to make sure it can be done safely. Don't hang out in people's blind spots, though. Be aware of where you are in conjunction to other people. Don't sit in the blind spot, because you're probably going to get into a collision. And while you may not be charged for it, you're still going to have a wrecked car and a bad day at the office. What if I'm driving with an airsoft rifle in the back? If you are traveling with an airsoft rifle, airsoft being a toy gun, it shoots a projectile, but the projectile travels at less than 500 feet per second, at least if it's legal, and it's not a firearm. If it does shoot projectiles beyond 500 feet per second, or 500 or more, it is a firearm, even if it's shooting plastic pellets. So how do you transport one? Well, they look like real guns, so don't have it in view. Have it in a carrier, in a bag. In the trunk would be ideal. We had someone who took it through a crowded subway, like in their hands. How do you think the police responded? With guns drawn. That's how they responded. So it doesn't matter if it's visible. You expect to be pulled over by police and possibly arrested at gunpoint until we determine that it's not actually a gun. These are things that are obvious to some and not to others. Yeah. Okay. Tips for a young driver going for their G test. These are great tips, and Ryan Pinn, who's a driving instructor, will probably concur. He may have even made these suggestions. It could also have been Scott Marshall, who's also a driving instructor, both magical men from Happy Land. Now, advice: get good sleep. Sleep is important. Go to the bathroom before you go to the test. You don't want to have distractors like doing the pee-pee dance while you're trying to concentrate on making sure you do everything you need to do to pass. Eat something. Don't be hungry. Don't be cranky. Sleep and eat and all those things. These are important. But if you're going for your G, you've been driving for at least 2 years, so or at least a year and 8 months. You should feel comfortable and that you've got this. Also, I like to say that you should verbalize what you're doing. That means when you're doing a shoulder check, say I'm doing a shoulder check. When you're looking in the mirror, say I'm looking at the mirror. Why? Because not every instructor or tester is paying attention to everything. They might be writing at the moment. You want to make sure they don't miss a thing. So verbalize what you're doing.
Hey, I'm going to interject here. There's a lot of spam in chat. Can you please address this question? What are the legal tint percentages? So it stops.
Tint. Let's talk about tint. A couple of things. First of all, please don't spam. The whole idea of spam is being disruptive. If you're not getting a question answered because you're asking it, we should probably ignore you. But Q's asked for this, so we will bring it up. Tint is very interesting. There's two sets of rules that come into play. One, in order to be safetied, to pass a safety inspection, to be a safe vehicle on the road, you can have no more than 30% light blockage, which means 70% of the light must get through. That applies to the windshield. Actually, wait, it applies to the windows directly left and right of the driver. And to the windshield, you can have nothing. No tint is permitted on the windshield, save and except for vehicles manufactured before 2017. That's 2016 and older, can have a 3-inch or 75-millimeter tint strip across the top. That's a sun strip, a brow. That's it. Windows behind the driver's compartment, the rear passenger, rear window, cargo area, that can be as dark as you want. You can paint it with a brush to be opaque, whatever you want. But you must, if you have no clear view out of the rear window and that mirror that's hanging on your front windshield is no longer useful, you must have at least one clear view, one mirror's view to the rear of the vehicle. That's it. Now, if you put something on the front windshield, what's the ticket? Is it just a tint ticket? What's the story? That's your vehicle's unsafe. Pull your license plates, you're off the road. If your windows left and right of the driver are too dark, pull your license plates, you're off the road. Additionally, you get charged under the HTA for having those windows obscured. Now, does that mean that you're good? No. If you have tint it makes the driver or the driver is visible or viewable or can be seen and identified and described during daylight hours, but it's nighttime. So you have the legal limit for safety, but it's nighttime. Now a police officer pulls up and cannot identify a driver through the window. Can't see you. It looks like it's a black window with no discerning features. Well, that's a ticket under the HTA still. Even though you have a legal limit for the safety, you're still too dark because you are not allowed to obscure the interior of the vehicle with a color coating or reflective tint, which brings up the fact you cannot have any reflective tint at all on those windows left and right of the driver, even if the percentage of light coming through is permitted. So there's a lot of, at the end of the day, don't tint your windows so dark. That's really where we're going here. If we can't see you, chances are you can't see us as well either. There are people who say, well, what about this chrome, what is it called? Chrome tint? No.
Chameleon.
There's another one too. I just can't remember what it's called. Chameleon's one of them. That's one that has a multicolor, different depth. It's darker on one side than the other. But there's another type of tint, and it escapes me right now. In any case, it's dark on the outside, but not as dark when you're looking out. Better, so in terms of tint percentages and safety, okay, but still not legal if we can't see in. Again, now, why? Why is that an issue? Well, ceramic. Thank you, Ryan Pinn says ceramic tint. That's exactly what I was thinking of. You should be on the show more frequently. No, actually, you're here every day. You're awesome. Thank you. And thank you to the entire community who spends every day coming out here. There's so many of our regular viewers who spend their time with us. We really appreciate you, and you're part of our extended family. Really cool. I look forward to the comments and the banter back and forth with you guys. So back to why is dark tint not allowed? So let's start with the windshield. Why can't you have your windshield tinted? Well, Eyes work with light coming in. You reduce the amount of light coming in, you don't see as much. It's just a fact of life. Also, as you age, you actually require more light. That's neither here nor there because it's not allowed at all. But if you're 40 or 50, you need more light than someone who's 20. That doesn't mean that as a 20-year-old you can have more darker tint, and nobody can have it on the windshield. When it comes to the windows left and right of the driver, of course you have to be able to see to be safe, but we need to be able to see inside so we can see if you're using your phone, drinking alcohol, describing male, female, any features for the purposes of Amber Alerts, for the purposes of fail to remain collisions. And it's not just police who have to be able to identify you, it's members of the public too. Additionally, when it comes to officer safety, we pull you over, we need to be able to see what's going on inside. People say, well, we'll just roll down the windows. That's great. It's still not legal. Cannot obscure the interior of the vehicle. I hope that answered everything and more in relation to that question.
To address, I didn't bring the question to your attention because of the spam. I did it for Emma, who was answering the question multiple times in chat.
Okay, well, I appreciate the clarification, but the whole concept here is that this is all about community, right? We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions, and the folks that come in and spam, we don't appreciate you, and the community doesn't appreciate you either because it makes it harder for us to answer questions because. And then people just leave. So also for the folks who think you're going to annoy me with spam, which some people want to do because they want to play games with the cop. I don't even read chat. You're just upsetting your peers and other people's in the community. Mike Quinn, good morning. He's coming in from LinkedIn Live. Says morning, Q and Sean. Good to see you. Love the photo. Saw the photo on online. That was cool. It's good that you're doing birthday tours. I like that. I heard you're going to be in the area. You should come by and say hello. I can get a selfie with you, too. Okay. Kayla Dracona says, greetings and salutations. Okay. And Ryan Pinn has a theory about spammers. He says he believes that they weren't hugged enough as a child. And, yeah. And the mods have the hug/mute button. That is how they make it up to you. Okay, we're moving on. What happens if you were stopped without insurance? So you're a driver, you're driving without insurance, and we'll take this in two sides. One, you don't have your insurance card. One, there's no insurance on the vehicle. It's an uninsured vehicle. So what happens? If you are pulled over and you don't have your insurance card, there's an offense under the Highway Traffic Act, failed to surrender proof of insurance. $65 is the fine. You're guilty of it if you don't have your insurance card or proof of insurance, which can now be provided by way of electronic means. If you have an app or a PDF on your phone, you can show it to us. We'll accept it. The HTA or the CAIA has been amended to allow that. However, ownership and driver's license must be the proper documents accepted. Actual driver's license for driver's license and either an original or a true copy, which is a photocopy of both sides of your ownership document. Now, if you don't have insurance on the vehicle because no one wants to pay for insurance on a vehicle because it's expensive and you think that's a good way of saving money, ooh, man, that's going to cost you. So that is going to cost you $5,000 to $25,000 and up to 6 months in jail. It could be either or both, and just generally a really bad idea. The example I always give is a friend of mine was involved in a collision when we were in high school. He was driving a company vehicle that belonged to his father's company. His father's company was paying insurance to a con artist who was providing fake insurance slips. Unknowingly, they were not insured, even though they were paying money on a monthly basis to pay for insurance. Why is that important? Well, when he was involved in a collision, he was not covered despite the fact that he was a victim of crime. And I think the $250,000 or so that he had to pay came out of his pocket regardless. So don't drive without insurance, period. Okay. Are harnesses legal? Depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about a 5-point harness, a racing harness, they are not street legal. At least 99.99% of them are not street legal. I say that because there may be some that could be, but the vast majority are not. They may be perfect for the track. They may be certified and acceptable for the track. They may not be perfectly acceptable, but still used on the track because the track is not the road. When it comes to the road, you must be wearing your OEM seatbelt. That is the one that came with your car. So if you want to wear your 5-point harness because you think it looks cool, and then put your seatbelt, which is totally not cool, on top of the 5-point harness, at least you'd be legal. But that's about it. So if you remove your OEM, your factory seatbelt, you've broken the law. There's a charge for removing it, and of course, you're not wearing a proper seatbelt at that point. I know there's a lot of argument because people say, why would you take away a 3-point to replace it with why wouldn't we take a 5-point harness and replace the 3-point harness? It's safer. Well, there's a bunch of reasons why. One, proper and regulated installations to make sure they're truly safe. The one that you put in may not meet it. Especially if you did it yourself. Very specific places to install. Secondly, actually installing yourself in that seat. That's a problem because most people don't have a pit crew to dress them in the morning. And you need one to strap you into that seat and properly secure you to the back of that chair. You should be one with the chair, according to race car drivers whom I've spoken with. Additionally, they need to be replaced on a regular basis because they wear out. What else can I say about them? Also, if you're involved in a motor vehicle collision and you crash, because that's what a motor vehicle collision is, when paramedics arrive to try and cut you out of said vehicle, they're looking for one strap to pull, not multiple straps. So you're delaying the amount of time or increasing the amount of time that it takes to get you out in the event of a fire or other life-saving procedure. Okay. What is this? All right, I'm not sure where this is going, but I'm going to totally ignore that Ryan Pin comment until I can clarify its meaning. I went through a yellow and got pulled over for it. I wonder why that was. Let's break this down. Green light means go. Red light means stop. And yellow light, it means stop. It does not mean go faster. It does not mean go through. It means stop. However, there's that little add-on. It means stop unless unsafe to do so. So if you are approaching a yellow light and it is reasonable for you to stop, you're expected to stop. If you fail to do so, you would get a ticket that has the same impact as a red light ticket. So it's amazing how many people drive and do not know that yellow means stop. It's very disappointing, in fact. Okay. And I don't mean it's disappointing that you asked me the question. I'm glad. Most people just don't know, and I don't know. Ryan, do you teach yellow means stop? I want to know. Okay. Do you chase motorcycles? Do motorcycles need to be chased? The answer is sometimes. Any chase, whether it be a motor vehicle that has 4 wheels or 2 or 3 or more, a chase means increasing the risk to the public, and we have to weigh every pursuit accordingly. And there's multiple people involved in a pursuit. It's not just the driver of the police vehicle. It is everybody on the radio and the supervisors and so on. You become front page news in terms of the police radio. You're the most important thing happening at the moment, and because it is high risk. So very often, chases don't occur for minor offenses. They don't. You know what we do? We got your license plate before we press the button because we have these great high-definition cameras that record it, and we just wait for you at your house. And if we don't get you a house or you have fake plates or you got to wait, you know what? We'll catch you next time. But it's not that's not an invitation to run because more often than not, there's things called police radios, and descriptions go out and we stop you later. So at the end of the day, if you're going to break the law, you do so making a choice, and the consequences are yours. They're your prize for making bad choices. Let's see here. This is a really good question. Can you enlighten viewers as to exchanging information when they're in a collision? So if you're involved in a motor vehicle collision, whether you are in a motor vehicle, a bicycle, you are part of that collision. You have an obligation to exchange information. You got to provide the other people your information and vice versa. The deal is that if you don't, there's charges that come with that. Now, something I've been meaning to talk about, we have a new option in the city of Toronto for pedestrians and cyclists who are involved in collisions. Now, historically, let's start there. If you're involved in a collision and it's just 2 vehicles and there's no injuries and there's the driver, actually even if there are minor injuries, if the drivers or passengers aren't transported, there's nobody who's transported by ambulance to hospital, that's a situation where it can go to a collision reporting center. Now there's a minimum requirement to make it a reportable collision if it's $2,000 or more, you have to legally report it to police. Under that, you don't. However, you may still want to. But if no one's transported by ambulance to hospital, if it's not involving a pedestrian or cyclist, those are things that can go to a CRC. If it is involving a cyclist or pedestrian, and everyone's staying on scene, then I say everyone. If the cyclist and pedestrian stay on scene, because sometimes people leave, and that could be the driver in a fail to remain situation, police will attend. Toronto Police will still attend those scenes and do the report on site. If, however, the cyclist left or pedestrian left and wants to report it later, or didn't realize it was so serious and wants to report it later, or just didn't feel like waiting, that's a situation where that too can go to a collision reporting center. But historically, or at least up until very recently, you had to go to either the north or the east reporting center. And if you were in downtown Toronto, that wasn't very convenient. Now there's a new program. ACCsupport.com is the website, and you can start a report online. You start the report for pedestrians and cyclists online, and then you can come to 9 Hannah, which is the building I'm in. That's traffic services. And in our lobby, there's a single station there where you can complete that report that you started online, and you're done. You don't have to go anywhere else. Afterwards, you're done. So only cyclists and pedestrians for this location, but it's a really cool option, being a far more accessible location. And and of course, you needed that information that was provided by the driver. This is going back to that question, circling back to Rafiana's question about the fact that people have to exchange information if involved in a collision. Hopefully
My turn.
Okay. I'm going to drink water.
Though, but mine is going to be quick, okay? Dory?
That was the question? Hey, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service, and I go live on social media answering your traffic and police questions. We do it Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's a new time. We were doing it 9 to 10. Polls said that you preferred later, so later it is. And we're going to keep going at this time until something changes, but hopefully this is the better time. Let's see here. So this is the follow-up to my question from Ryan Pinn, the driving instructor, who's from Nova Scotia, by the way, or in Nova Scotia. I guess from and in Nova Scotia. Are you from Nova Scotia? Okay, moving on. And I think it's funny when I had asked him if he teaches yellow means stop. And the response is, and I think it's funny when I stop my student at a yellow and they say, I could have made that. It's all about interpretation. And oddly enough, everyone seems to think they got enough time until they don't. But when I'm watching, if you are at a distance that you could have stopped safely, but you're before the point of no return, you should have stopped.
Here's the question, okay?
Okay.
Do cyclists have the same rights as drivers riding on the sidewalk? No walk signal, but green light.
I'm sorry. Why are cyclists riding on the sidewalk? That's the big question. Cyclists are not permitted on the sidewalk unless they're under the age of 14 in Toronto. Other jurisdictions may be different, but in the city of Toronto, it is a bylaw. You cannot ride on the sidewalk, so you got no rights on the sidewalk. You're not allowed to be there. Children can ride on the sidewalk. It's safer and better. But it used to be based on diameter of tire. That was a long time ago. That's no longer the case. But yeah, you still have to get off your bicycle to go through a crosswalk. So I don't know what rights we're talking about. Do you know what rights we're talking about, Q?
No.
All right. Maybe we can rephrase the question from the questioner. Let me know more what you were going with it, because I do want to answer your question. I just don't know where to go with it based on the way you asked it. Okay. Can I drive with my G1 if I'm a good driver? Sure, you can drive with a G1 if you're a good driver, assuming you have a passenger who has a full G license and is supervising you. Full G license who has qualified with 4 years experience. That experience starts when they got their G2 and continues at a total of 4 years between G2 and G, but they must have a full G. If you're alone, you are eligible for a wonderful ticket called Drive Unaccompanied. It comes with a $110 fine and a 30-day license suspension for your first time. Second time, it's 90 days. Third time, it's a kick out of the program, start again, lose all time and all money. And when I mean lose all time and the money, let's say you got to wait 8 months if you've got a course, 12 months if you're waiting to take your G2. Let's say you are 7 months and 30 days in, And tomorrow you're going to get your test to go to G2. So you figure, what harm could it do? Well, if it's your third hit, well, we're going to start you back at 0. You're going to start the G1 all over again after you apply and pay again, of course.
Here's a question I could not answer and I couldn't find the answer on.
Okay.
Can I drive a diesel RV that has air brakes with my DZ license, and can I pull a trailer with it?
I have no idea. You know what? I don't. Your DZ, your dump truck license with a Z, you're covered for anything below a RV, diesel or otherwise, is going to be a G-class license. You're going to have an air brake designation. I'm assuming you have an air brake designation with a DZ. Isn't the Z the air brake designation? I'm a little rusty on the whole commercial stuff. It's not my forte. But I think you are covered with your DZ because dump truck is still going to have all your qualifications for G. The motorhome is going to be covered. Now, are we talking about a motorhome or are we talking? Sorry, what was was it motorhome?
RV.
RV. I'm going to assume the RV is one that is capable of being driven by a G-class license, save and except for the requirement for the air brakes.
Okay,
so
but
yeah,
the question was, can I tow a trailer with it?
it depends if it's a part of the maximum length. I don't know about the tow. I'd have to phone a friend even if I was on the road because I don't know the answer to that question. So I'm sorry that I can't give you a better one. At least I got part of it. I just don't know the towing part.
Trailer would depend on the weight and the length of the car.
Right.
Or
So you have
vehicle,
you have an overall maximum length for towing. I mean, I see buses that have stuff, but I don't know if it's covered for under the. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I am writing this down. Do you know what's the maximum? What's the length of his RV? That's going to be the
But
question.
you could read that out in the chat right there, the width and the height and the
Oh,
da-da-da-da.
you sent it to me? Oh, that part? So maximum width of a vehicle is 3.7 meters on a 2-lane highway and 3.85 meters on a multi-lane highway? Or is that width of... Is that the... Okay, and length is no greater than 25 meters for a combination of vehicles and 12.5 meters for single vehicle. Height maximum... I never understand what this means. I mean, I understand what it's saying, but I can't visualize how big a vehicle that is. So we're going to move on. But I do want to get you some information. If you do me a favor, DM me and we can get back to you on that. Because I do want to deep dive. This is the whole thing. I actually want to know the answers. I just don't have time to go further down the rabbit hole than I already have gone. Can I go do a G2 test with a rental vehicle over 25 years? I don't know. Do they still rent vehicles that are over 25? Ba-dum-bum. So, yeah, if you're able to rent a vehicle, there's nothing prohibiting you from using a vehicle that is rented as long as it's safe. And most rental vehicles are in good condition. So I think you're okay there. But yeah, you can use rental vehicles or borrowed vehicles, or you can arrange to, with a driving instructor, to use their vehicle for a test. Lots of options. Sean Chen says, good morning. Okay. You should name you unanswered question bank the impound. Oh, I like that. I like that. Ryan Pin says unanswered questions go into the impound. Question impound. I like it. I like it a lot. Does TPS have a CVE unit? Are we? CVE is a new term for me. Is that a commercial vehicle enforcement unit? I think that's where you're going. I'm going to say that that's where we're going, and we're going to move on. Yes, Toronto Police has so we're traffic services. We have officers here that focus on traffic, but then we have within us those that are CVSA qualified inspectors and a commercial motor vehicle team. So we were out with them last week to watch what they were doing. They inspected for 2 days vehicles. You know, they had a 57% fill rate. 57% of the vehicles were taken out of service for being unsafe or failing their inspection. Penalty for driving without a license. I believe it's $350. Oddly enough, no demerit points because you don't have a license. How do ticket fighters instantly dismiss tickets? They don't instantly dismiss tickets. They make arguments based on information that they think are opportunities, and they may or may not be successful. They don't always. They don't press a button. It's not that easy. But very often they identify errors, what they call fatal errors, and they happen at times where people make boo-boos because people are people. Those humans. What is this? Can I get a ticket if my car is low or on bags? Yes. If your vehicle is too low or your suspension system does not meet safety requirements, then you can be taken out of service for unsafe vehicle. It's not just a ticket. You can get tickets as well, but unsafe vehicle means we take your license plates and you get a tow truck ride and that you have to pay for. What is this? I need to refill my water. Stand by. Please stand by. It's amazing how much water I go through. Okay. Tow hook license plate holder legal in Ontario. I have no issues and have not seen anything that would suggest otherwise. I, in fact, suggest tow hook options for the front license plate, specifically for vehicles where people are worried about the prettiness factor of having their factory front plate. You have to display your front plate. I think the tow hook adapter is a good solution for those who are having issues, and obviously safer than putting it in the front windshield, which is also illegal. But there's no law that says you can't, so until they make one, there's no law that says you can't. Okay. Anything going on in chat queue?
People want to know if they have expired stickers, what they should do.
If you have an expired sticker, this is actually a really good question and very timely as we approach the end of the month. If your sticker expired after March 1st, on or after March 1st, 2020, you were covered under an extension that took you right up until February 28th, 2022. Of course, the new law or the absence of sticker requirements going forward means that you have to register under the new system, and that started March 13th. The province gave you an extra 30 days or so. You're good to the end of until March 31st, in fact. So, excuse me. The ability to renew is active. You can go online. You have to have a proof of insurance, your mileage, and then you can renew your vehicle under the new system, at which point you're legal again. You can choose 1 or 2 years. I don't know why anybody would choose one, but it's an option. And that's available now. So you should do that before you expire, because if you do not do it and you are expired, you're going to get a ticket. Okay. Are you allowed to have pets in the front? In the front of what? You can have them in the front seat legally, not on your lap, not interfering with your ability to drive, because that would be one of two charges, either careless or drive while crowded. But they can legally be in the front seat. However, I will tell you that children and small animals don't like airbags exploding in their faces. It tends to be very deadly. My suggestion would be back seat, either in a crate, but regardless of where they are in the vehicle, tethered for their safety and yours. Animals in the back seat can become projectiles into the front seat or out of the vehicle entirely. We want you to be in a seatbelt for your safety. You want a pet to be in a seatbelt or in a transporter for their safety too. Why? Well, because if you're in a collision and they end up hitting you, becoming lodged against you, becoming ejected from the vehicle, bad things happen. Okay. Good morning, Kingston, Canada. From Kingston, Canada, Cordell Beaudry says hi. Well, hello, Kingston. We have friends in Kingston. If you're watching on any channel, please like and share. If you're on Instagram or TikTok, you can tap that screen until your fingers go numb. It helps the algorithm know that we're magical. If you are sharing, it's because you're actually giving us the best reference you can possibly give. Over 20 people have shared this live so far on TikTok. I can't see how many people have done it on Instagram. Anybody who shares it, I really appreciate it. You can, of course, do that on any of the other platforms we're on. That includes YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Now, Twitter can't ask us questions because they're currently broken. But follow us, subscribe on whatever channel you're on. And, I completely forgot to talk about this, podcasting. So we have been asked for many moons to create a podcast, and we're getting there. And we're actually publishing, and I published our very first episode, which is the interview that I put up on Sunday. Sunday we had an interview that was with Turf Canada. We published that on YouTube, and it went out on all our platforms except TikTok and Instagram. And what does that mean? Well, it went out there, but if you wanted to listen to it while you were driving, that would be dangerous. So because you'd have to watch your screen or you'd have it open, and then you'd burn data. So we've created TPS Traffic Jam. TPS Traffic Jam is the name of the podcast. We will be rebroadcasting interviews and making them available as single episodes. If you follow us on any of your or your favorite podcast apps, we're on the podcast app from Apple. We're on Spotify. We're Anchor is the host, so you can get us through Anchor. You can watch us or listen to us anywhere. Now, it'll download and sync to your phone automatically if you follow us. And as new episodes, which should be at least once a week for a full episode, maybe we'll have some updates that come up in between shorter episodes, tips and things. Got some great content, some great folks that we're going to be interviewing over the next little while. And additionally, we're going to create, or I say we, I don't know who we is. I will be taking the best of our live sessions. So going through and creating creating updates where we break down the live session and chop it up so that the best of go into a single episode, which will then go out as an episode. Yeah, podcasting. Follow us. TPS Traffic Jam. You can search by it for me too. Q, what's up?
I was actually just about to leave as a joke.
Well, thank you. We've got a question coming in from YouTube. Is that the question that we're talking about, Q?
From Frank Zhang.
Okay. I got one from Tracy, too. Tracy came in from LinkedIn. I'll get to yours in just 1 second. Frank Zhang says, hi, I have a G2 license and I own the vehicle. If I accompany a G1 driver to practice test, what penalty do me and G1 get if we're pulled over? Well, Frank, the fact that you're asking means you know that it's against the law. You can drive them there so they can take their G2 test, but you cannot let them drive because you're not qualified to supervise. I'm looking at this, at your question, and this is the direction I look at YouTube questions, which is, I look at this question. Anyway, yeah, you can't do that. You can drive them there. They can use your vehicle for the G2 test, but you cannot let them drive because you need to have 4 years experience and a full G license. Now, if you got your G license tomorrow and had 4 years as a G2, you would be then qualified to supervise because the clock starts when you get your G2. But that's it. So, Frank, don't do it. They would get a ticket for drive unaccompanied. You would get a ticket for permitting a driver to drive in violation of their conditions. So you'd both be charged if I was the guy pulling you over, even though you're a follower of the show. And I appreciate you. So don't break the law. Okay. Tracy Bell says, I just renewed and they actually don't ask you for proof of insurance. They do, however, ask for your driver's license plate number and permit number from the ownership and the vehicle's odometer reading. I found that strange. Online, when I went, I thought I'd ask for my policy. I'd have to go back. I haven't actually done the renewal. I started the process, and my understanding is they are doing live updates of your insurance. So maybe they're taking your old information and just verifying status, because my understanding is they do have an ability with all your information. So if nothing changed and you're still showing insured, maybe they're just accepting it. But if its status in their system changed to uninsured or unconfirmed, maybe they'd be asking for it. So I don't know. But my understanding is they are checking insurance status on a live system now. If I mod my car, do I have to let me insurance know? That's verbatim. I'm going to put it on screen so you can see let me insurance know. If you mod your car and you don't let your insurance know, what do you think is going to happen? There, in the event of a collision, we'll look at your vehicle, and because they're going to own it if they write the vehicle off, they inspect the vehicle, right? If they see modifications that are not ones that they were aware of, they will likely deny your claim. So if you don't let them know, expect to not be insured in the event of a collision, have a claim denied. And that's the deal. So yeah, you should. It might mean an increase to your rates. It might mean they might not want you to be insured under their company anymore. However, it's way better than doing some changes and then being told that you're not covered. How loud is too loud when modding your exhaust? 74 decibels is the idle volume that or max that you can be at idle for a safety check for the purposes of mechanical check. For the purposes of a charge for unnecessary noise, it's any unnecessary noise. You could be a brand new stock Honda Civic and you drive at 9,000 RPM while doing 40K down Yonge Street. That's a charge for unnecessary noise if I've ever heard of one. So it really depends on driver behavior above all. You could have a car that is somewhat louder or a motorcycle that is louder than the average. And if you drive like a responsible driver and you're not creating unnecessary noise, you may may never get a ticket. So it really depends. If it sounds like an angry Coke can screaming, that's bad. That's bad. Okay. What is this? One of my colleagues was telling me that one of his friends got caught driving after midnight, 30 over the limit with a Class 7, which is equivalent of a G1. His excuse was he was on the way to the fire department because he was a volunteer. Yeah, that's a good. We don't even allow. I don't think we allow G2 drivers to be volunteers with us, or G1 for that matter. You'd have to be a full G license to be a volunteer for Toronto Police, for at least as an auxiliary officer. So we wouldn't let him in the unit or in the service for that. Things you need to know. Okay.
Private chat.
Sorry, go ahead.
Private chat.
Oh. Folks that are in the chat and doing really ridiculous things like advertising your company or inciting dangerous acts on the road, that's going to get you banned. We're gonna not have you back in here because that's just not nice and not safe and not smart. So yeah, please refrain from doing it. I know my asking isn't going to stop you because you're doing it, which means you've already failed the ability to, determine what's right and wrong. So I'm saying it just so when everyone sees these people disappear, it's because they were doing that. But thanks for bringing that up. Can't we just all get along? Okay, do you decibel test people's exhaust before you give a ticket? No. In Ontario, it's not a requirement. Other provinces have testing procedures outlined in order to lay the charge for improper exhaust. We are not writing a ticket for improper exhaust. We're writing a ticket for, actually, there is a ticket for improper exhaust. It's when it's not there, generally speaking, or it's non-functional. Because if it's so loud that it's not doing what it's supposed to do, it's not muffling, then we issue a ticket for improper. But when it comes to unnecessary noise, it's unnecessary. It could be your horn, your stereo, your squeaky tires because you're squealing them, anything that's unnecessary and noisy. See, it's so simple. No decibel rating required to lay the charge. Tint Lawn, Ontario, I have 20% for the sun. Tint Lawn, Ontario, for safety, for us not to pull your license plates and get you towed home, requires no more than 30% light blockage. So 70% has to come through. Now, when you say 20%, it could be 20% coming through, which would be an 80% tint, or 20% light blockage, allowing 80% light through. So I don't know which 20% you're talking about, but 30% light blockage is the maximum that you can have on your windows. 70% has to get through for vehicle safety. Otherwise, we can pull your plates if it's the front, and nothing can be on the windshield. And of course, if you're obscuring the interior of your vehicle so we can't see in, that's also against the law. Different charge though. What if you have insurance but the card is expired? If you provide an expired card that's not valid, it's not proof of insurance, $65 fine. There's no demerit points. It's kind of the good deal one. But if you continuously do that, we're probably going to be investigating you for no insurance on your vehicle. And guess what? We have 3 years to lay that charge from the date of offense. So if we, friends of mine, and I was doing this too when I was on the road, if it's a nighttime charge, if it's a daytime charge, I'm calling your insurance company to verify status of your insurance. But when you give me an expired card, because I'm just going to lay the charge right then and there. But if it's at night, on the weekend, I can't get a verification, I have up to 3 years to lay that charge. So I make a note, you become part of my project file, and I look up later, and if I confirm that you didn't have insurance on that day, I'd lay the charge after. So things to know before you do. At what speed will you not chase? Depends. There's no cutoff, so you shouldn't have a goal in mind. If anything, what we do is we radio ahead and do what needs to be done at that point. Our goal is not to chase. We don't want to create a speed competition. We're not in a race with you. We're going to get you eventually. It's where we phone a friend. Laws on owning retired police vehicles. Well, obviously, if it says police on it, you may be putting yourself out to be a police officer, and that's going to be an offense. But simply owning one, they're not really regulated. You can't have a siren on a vehicle. That's something that's for sure in the HTA. What is this? Left turn on red from a one-way onto another one-way legal. Yes, in Ontario, the only time you can make a left on a red is when you are turning left from a one-way to another one-way. Otherwise, it's only right on red that's permitted in Ontario. And everyone's going to have different rules. Every province is going to have to, you need to look. You need to look at those. And Tracy, you're very welcome. Okay. What can classic cars get away with versus new cars? Well, if the classic car was, if it was a vehicle that was shipped without, like manufactured without seatbelts, then you don't need seatbelts. If it was manufactured without exhaust systems or like a muffler, then you don't need to have a muffler. But that's because it was a classic car manufactured that way from factory. And as Q brings up, right on red is only illegal where it's signed, or unless it's signed otherwise. So there are intersections where signs say you can't make a right on red. Obviously, signs have authority and change the standard rule of right on red being legal in Ontario. Okay. Can I use a photocopy of an insurance slip? No, you may not. But you can use electronic copies now. So if you have either an app from your insurance provider or a PDF copy, that is permitted. Photocopies, however, are not permitted. What happened with the license plate stickers? The law done changed. That's what happened. They're no longer required. However, you still need to go onto the ministry website and renew online. It's the invisible renew with no pay, no fee, but you don't have to have it on there anymore. Now, I would leave it on until you've renewed. So if you are eligible to renew and invalid until December, keep your sticker on till then. But if you go online tomorrow and renew, and you can renew for free in advance of your expiry date, because I am not until later this year, and I went online and it was totally going to let me do it. So at the point that you renew, I think you can safely remove the sticker, but I wouldn't do it before then. Let's see here. What's your province inspections like? I'm in New Brunswick. I have no idea what you mean. Province inspections for vehicle, province inspections for driver's license. What kind of inspections are we talking about? And I wouldn't know the difference between yours. I don't even know. Are we talking about for commercial motor vehicles? I've already stated I am not a commercial motor vehicle guy, but I do want to do an episode with them. We've been talking about it a lot. It's a hot topic, so we'll bring some folks in and do an episode. We'll do an interview. We'll make a podcast. What is the fine for stunting? Well, there's no set fine for stunting. There's a range. The range is for the first offense. I think it's $1,000 to $10,000. Comes to it with a 1 to 3 year suspension. And of course, at the moment, at roadside for stunt, you're going to lose your vehicle for 14 days. You're going to lose your license for 30. And that's before it ever goes to court. That's instantaneous. So you get to pay for the towing, you get to pay for the impound fees, you get to pay for everything. Stunting occurs, or is deemed to have occurred, if you exceed the speed limit in a area that has a speed limit under 80 kilometers an hour. If you do 40 kilometers over that posted speed limit, you're stunting. If you're in an area that has a speed limit over, or 80 and over, then 50 kilometers over the speed limit is stunting. Anything 150 period, regardless of where you are, regardless of what the speed limit is, that's stunting. If you intentionally drift, if you do donuts, if you break traction intentionally, those are stunting. There's a ton. If you jackrap at start, so it's not an advanced green, it just turns green, and you hammer that gas and make a left turn in front of oncoming traffic, that's stunt driving. There's a ton of things that are stunt driving. Okay. Sean Chen wants to know, if sirens aren't allowed, can you have a modified horn like the one that police cars have? So, excuse me. If you have a air horn, air horns are not directly illegal, but the siren function can't even be on the box that controls it. And it shouldn't sound like a police vehicle. If it's being misused to sound like a police vehicle, you might find yourself in a problem, because there is some wordy word stuff, legalese, that suggests that an air horn that sounds like a police horn could be an issue. Can a bike pass another bike within a lane? I would imagine you still have to adhere to the 1 meter rule that cyclists are entitled to for safety. Ryan Pinn would like to know if I have any idea where his kids' matching socks went. They're probably with my kids' matching socks, and together we might find the pairs. So I'll have a look. I'll let you know on tomorrow's show. By the way, tomorrow's show, it's Wednesday, and we have an extra large episode again, because we're doing a 25-minute segment with Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010. That's where, so we'll be starting at 9:30. The first 30 minutes is going to be Jerry Agar. We'll have some questions that we take from whoever's in the room here with us on TikTok, because he will have phone-in and text-in questions from his listeners. And then at 10 o'clock, we will get back to our regular scheduled programming when we have your questions, without interruption. But the first half hour will be Jerry Agar focused. We'll be doing a lot of stuff with him, talking about things that matter to him and his listeners. And his listeners are very often our listeners. Okay. Joining me now, we have Sergeant Murray Campbell. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Sorry I missed most of the show, but I got the last 5 minutes.
We were taking it very personally. Yes.
Busy day.
We, just you.
Q is not missing. Am I taking that correctly?
I was not anticipating Sergeant Campbell to join us.
Thus you
because
were
he
not
said
missing.
that.
Okay.
No, he's a very busy man.
This is true. Okay. What to do when you get into an accident? Well, first of all, there are no accidents. There are collisions, and we accept that they happen. But definitely there are people who are responsible. Someone made a boo-boo. So what do you do? Well, as a driver or involved person, exchanging information is a requirement with all of the others that are involved. Very often we get calls saying there was a collision and the guy in the blue car, he says he's not sharing information. Well, then that's not allowed. Now, if the collision is minor, under $2,000, it's not required to be reported unless there's injuries. If there's injuries or if there's a value over $2,000 total amongst all vehicles involved in the collision and persons and property, then of course it does need to be reported. You can exchange information. You can individually, in most cases, go to collision reporting centers. If there are injuries involving people who have been transported to a hospital, police will attend and do the collision report there. If it's involving pedestrians or cyclists, we will come and do it there. However, there are circumstances where if it's reported after the fact, if it's reported and the pedestrian doesn't want to remain, it's possible to be deferred to at that point to a collision reporting center. And if you're in the city of Toronto, we have a new option, which is at 9 Hannah Avenue, right here at Traffic Services, where pedestrians and cyclists specifically can attend instead of having to go to either the north or the east location. So much more convenient. And there's an app. You go to www.accsupport.com, and there's an app where you can start the report at your convenience and then just complete it in person. So lots of cool stuff happening if you're a cyclist and or a pedestrian. I think that's really awesome.
Ryan Pinn brings up a good point.
What does he say?
Sergeant Campbell would know the answer about the RV with the DZ license.
He
and
would
towing
know
a
that.
trailer.
Yes. So the question was, if they have a DZ license, they are driving he specified diesel RV.
Yep.
And he wants to know if he can tow a trailer. Oh, with air brakes. He has air brakes.
So, all right. So obviously this is a diesel pusher, which is a converted bus. You do not require a bus license for it because you're not transporting passengers. You do have to follow the weight restrictions that the vehicle is registered for. So when you're registering it with the Ministry of Transportation, you have to have all those weight restrictions covered, or else the vehicle can't be on the road. For driving it itself, if you have a DZ, you have to follow what is allowed by your DZ license. If you have a Class G license, there are exemptions for overweight and over length recreational vehicles, camping vehicles.
Would their DZ kick in, or because if they have a DZ, they also have all the benefits of G?
That's correct. So they'd be able to carry more on a trailer. They would not be limited. I believe it's 4,600 kilograms.
I think you're right.
So they may have the ability to carry more as long as it's lawful and that trailer is able to be on the road. So
and then we get into the maximum length of combination vehicles and things like that. So I think we covered it, but you've clarified, and you said diesel pusher, which is cool. I don't know, it just sounds cool.
a diesel pusher is where the engine's at the back of the recreation vehicle, as opposed to being at the front.
Cool. What is this? Can I? Okay. Traffic Services. Can I get locked up if I ran into an undercover cop by accident on my push bike? Just wondering. I don't know I don't know where they're going with that. Could you get locked up by running into an undercover police? If you get into a collision as an undercover officer, would you get arrested by No.
Did you do it on purpose?
Oh, intentional is different.
Well, yeah.
But they said by accident.
Okay. Well, then that would be.
If we're taking you at your word that you don't just randomly drive into undercover police cars that you know are undercover, you didn't know, I don't even know where to go with this. Okay. Let's see here. Right turns allowed when all lights are red. All lights are red? When are they all red? So if you approach an intersection and the lights are red for all, we're going to say that's a malfunctioning intersection?
No, I'm going to say that every intersection in the city of Toronto has a 2-second all-round red.
They do?
They do, to ensure the safety. Before the light goes green for the opposite direction,
2 seconds?
there's a 2-second all-round red.
I think some are broken. So when it's all red, when you're making a right turn on a red, you must ensure that it's safe to do so. You have to have come to a complete stop, and then. So I imagine you'd be beyond any 2-second at that point if you're doing it properly.
Yeah, and if you're stopped and everything is red and you're doing it properly, you can go.
We just said goodbye to Instagram, our 1 hour. This is how I know we're not verified yet on Instagram, because it cuts off after an hour.
So how do we get verified?
We applied, but they're Instagram.
And they don't like us?
We have to wait. We don't know.
All right.
They may not have accepted our application. And if you know, you should all write emails to Instagram complaining about us, that the fact that we're not verified.
You could be fake.
I could be fake.
Yeah.
I'm not me. Let's see. Will we have to get a safety every year now? I don't. So this is a question that comes up. A lot of confusion surrounding Ministry of Transportation and the shift to not requiring safety, renewal stickers and fees associated with those renewal stickers. So the question is, do I have to get a safety now every year? And I don't believe that's going to be the case.
There was something that just came out when I saw it on the ministry's website to do with vehicle safeties.
Really?
And I'm not sure that I remember exactly what it was. I don't want to give out incorrect information, but
Incorrect information is bad.
yeah.
We choose not. You know what? We'll look into it. Maybe we'll talk about it again tomorrow when we do our 1.5 hour show, because we're doing the Jerry Agar Show at 9:30, and then 10 o'clock we'll continue doing our thing here.
In the meantime, you can look it up in the.
We'll look it up. We'll have more information, because you know what? If you're asking, Jerry Agar is going to ask too. Are red tinted fog lights illegal? Yes, they would be. You cannot project forward any color other than white or yellow. Although we don't see very many yellow lights anymore. It's just not popular. In the 70s and 80s, every fog light was yellow.
Fog lights, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's driving lights.
Yeah, there's just no yellow ones.
I have seen a couple of cars that have modified it, and their headlights are yellow. Perfectly legal.
I don't necessarily. Ryan says that question goes in the impound, because he says that any question that we can't answer must go into the impound. He's dubbed our lot of unanswered questions the impound. I like it.
I like it too. 'Cause
I like it.
I'm kind of the impound.
He is the impound sergeant. So between we'll consult the impound, and let's see here. Oh, somebody has questions about particular flags. I think that's interesting. Let's see here. Gardner versus the 401. Who has the worst drivers? I don't know if they're the same drivers. They just got off the 401 and went to the DVP and the Gardner.
Yeah. Highways in Toronto are different from provincial highways. The width of shoulders, things like that. The Don Valley Parkway. The Don Valley Parkway in particular has no shoulders. It's a tough highway to get to if you need to get there in a hurry as an emergency vehicle. And the road's blocked.
Oh, for us but in terms of I think the question
Drivers?
was the quality of drivers, and I put up a poll. The poll is you can choose red for Toronto, because why not, and sad face for 401. Who's worse? DVP Gardner drivers for red, and which is the happy face, or 401 drivers for sad face, just because we didn't press the button today, so I got to make use of the poll.
Unfortunately, there's bad drivers everywhere.
Well, that's the truth. But interestingly enough, I think people this is tied up. This is 13-13. I think everyone. I don't know. I think it really just goes that it is exactly the same, the same drivers everywhere. But I like seeing the poll. I think this is the coolest feature that is being underutilized, because I don't have real justified uses for it. But this is fun. Okay, happy faces are winning out. Yes, while we're waiting.
Do I have the right to remain silent when I get pulled over?
There's certain information you have to provide. If you make a demand for license ownership and insurance, you have to provide that physically. Verbally, no. I don't think you have to. There's no communication beyond that. We ask questions. Do you have to answer them? No.
If it changes into a criminal investigation, then you have the right not to incriminate yourself.
I will say this.
There
Sorry, go
is
ahead.
certain information provincially that you are required to answer. Should you get into a collision, you're required to answer certain information.
In a very, I think this was more of a general question for,
Yep.
but yes, if you're involved in the collision, things change. And if you don't, would there be a charge for not communicating certain information? I've never run into a situation where I've had to delay or have an issue.
If I was never satisfied with the identification that was given, I can ask some follow-up questions.
And now failing to
Answer those ones would not satisfy me that your identification is correct and could end up.
where you're arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah, because failing to identify or refuse to identify could, in that situation, result in arrest. So, but are you required to speak? No, it just means that the consequence might be arrest. You know,
And it all depends on the circumstances.
and that's nothing is simple.
Yep.
It all depends on the situation. But if we were just stopping you to talk to you, do you have to answer our questions? If we say where were you, where are you going, that's not stuff that you have to answer. If we have basic conversation with you and you're choosing to be less talkative, maybe that creates suspicion. Maybe we start wondering, and maybe we look at other things. But that's not to say you have to. It just means that we might become more curious. Let's see here. How to make turn onto road with bike lanes. How to make a turn onto a road with bike. Carefully. There's a lot going on, and cyclists are in that lane and have a right of way. You're making a turn. You have to make sure that turn can be done safely because, again, you're responsible for anything you do, especially in a turning motion. But you are really responsible for everything you do. And when you're turning in anywhere around cyclists, you know they're there. You're saying that they're there, so you're aware of it. Know that a lot of cyclists, this is not it does not make them less responsible legally, but know that a lot of cyclists don't know the laws of the road. They don't know they're even responsible for rules of the road. So some of them aren't paying attention. Some of them are. Some of them are really switched on. We have a fantastic riding community in Toronto, and they will let you know when you make a mistake.
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
So when turning, don't turn into the bike lane.
Yes.
It's the only circumstance where you are not required to turn into the lane closest to the curb because you cannot occupy the bike lane. You can, where allowed.
So in situations where there's hash marks on the line that divides it, now there's no rule for crossing a line in law, but where there's no sign present. But there is an understood egress route. So when they put those hash marks, it's to identify areas where you were intended to pinch the curb to make a right turn using the bike lane at an intersection. But truly it is confusing because we have many different types of bike lanes throughout the city of Toronto, and knowing how they all work, they're all different. Or many of them are different.
Bike lanes, cycle tracks, all those things.
Sharrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that, although there may be more than one cycle track or more than one bike lane, and at every intersection could have been designed slightly differently to just confuse you.
Yep. Common sense.
Yeah. Okay. We are at time. We're actually 10 minutes over. I'm looking for one last question that just piques my interest because you know what? There's things here that we've not gotten to, and I want to get to them, but we just don't have time. What is this? What is the minimum motorcycle license requirement? It's an M1. What's requirement? You have to be 16. What
So are you talking motorcycle, moped, low speed?
I don't even know. I chose this one because I saw a motorcycle and I went, he is cool, but I don't know what the answer. I don't know what the question is.
Three-wheeled motorcycle?
So yeah, it depends because there are a lot. Even there are bicycles that aren't bicycles because they qualify as motorcycles because someone put an engine on them. There's a lot of things going on. I don't know what your question really was, so I should know.
I guess the most basic one to get would be your learner's permit, which would be an M1, or you could get an M1 with conditions. That would be a learner's permit for maybe a three-wheeled motorcycle.
But wouldn't an M1 just be an M1 until you get your?
I don't believe so.
I think the conditions are, and now we're speculating. I think the conditions are that if you take your G2 and you get it on a three-wheel and you don't plan on taking
M2?
M2, thank you. And you're only doing it for three-wheel, you're not taking the full M. I think that's where it ends, and you get you can have a designation only for that bike. I think, but
right.
I'm not sure. Okay, that's it. What is this question? Do you ever try teleprompter challenges? Did you ever get into radio work, and was it your first choice? Okay. How did you get into radio work? Well, I'm not on the radio, not really. Okay, so this is actually a really good one. I have done some teleprompter challenges. They are interesting. I got into this position as a social media and media relations officer by accident. It's the only time I get to say the word accident in relation to a collision. I was a member of the motor squad. I was involved in a collision on duty, and as a result, I was taken off the road. I wasn't able to perform my duties because I was injured. I started doing things in social media that have blossomed into live streaming like I am doing right now, and I do appear on the radio by way of TikTok. So Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010, their producers reached out to us and said, you know what, we like what you're doing. We'd like to put your audience and your questions and with our audience and get more of a reach in Toronto. So that's what we do. They simulcast our TikTok feed on the air, and vice versa. We get them on our feed so that our audience can hear and well, they can't see them, but they can hear them. So it's really cool. Was radio my first choice? No. I always wanted to be a police officer since watching Chips as a kid and having a 3-wheeled electric bicycle toy thing, Power Wheels. I've been a police geek for a very long time. That's it. That's all. That is all the time we have. It's been a blast. Please follow us if you don't already do. We'll be back tomorrow 9:30 on TikTok, where we join Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010, followed by a full hour of Q&A right from 10 to 11. So we'll see you tomorrow. I gotta put the music on.
Bye, everybody.
It's a blast. It has been a blast. It is always a blast.
Okay, bye-bye.
We got some Australian flags from number 2 BS guy. Who's asking silly questions. Can the police go code 3? Let's see here. These are things we'll talk about later. These are good things for tomorrow. All right. Bye, folks. Bye, Brian. Bye, Brian. Ryan became Brian when I said bye, Ryan. 2 words together. See ya.